everybody, if you're new here, welcome to my channel, and if not, then welcome back to another one of my videos. So after Halloween, I was going through my list of like all the books that I've read, all the books that I DNF'd, and I realized I had a lot of DNFs. And not necessarily like in October, because I was doing pretty good in October, but towards the end, or ones that I just like couldn't get into for spooky season, a lot over the summer as well. So I was like, we're due for another DNFs video. And I had just watched my last one, which was back in like April, I want to say, maybe even March, and it was like a very full circle moment for me. I was like, wow, I've like grown so much since then. Like my hair is different, my setup is different, my way of filming is different. I feel like I'm definitely still me, but I've grown a lot, and it kind of made me tear up actually. I was just like, wow, that was a while ago. My setup is totally different now, and honestly I wouldn't really say you should go check out that video because my stuff from before is pretty embarrassing, but I will say I still like stand by all those recommendations. I feel like I had some top tier recommendations when I first came on BookTube. I think I came in and like nobody had heard of these books, and I was like, boom, a very Freya intro of me. But anyway, I wanted to talk about a bit more of the books that I've DNF'd since then. I think I have like under 16, I'm pretty sure. I'm a firm believer of if you don't want to read it, DNF it. Don't put yourself through a book that you don't enjoy just to say you read it, because like, why are you reading it? Like, that makes no sense to me. If I don't like a book, I DNF it. But that being said, I have recently been like, I really just want to see how this ends. I don't care about them, but I want to see how this ends. So sometimes I'll like skip to the end and see because I'm nosy. But for the most part, if I'm not enjoying it, I don't read it. And I am very thankful that I believe in like doing that because it saved me from so many bad books, I swear to God. So anyway, we're gonna go over the ones that I DNF'd. And there is a few, so we're probably gonna have to get into it now. Originally, I wanted to start with the ones that I DNF'd like just after my last video went up, and then like at the end go to the ones that I recently DNF'd. But honestly, I think I'm gonna do it the other way because like I don't care about those other books that I DNF'd way back when. Like I think it was in April or May that I DNF'd my first one on this list. So like I don't care about them. Honestly, we're gonna have to go with the ones I DNF'd now to like get in the mood to do this video. But also guys, I am wearing a like brace for my wrist that is needing an x-ray and very banged up. I feel like I need to say that at the beginning so you're not like, what's on her wrist? Anyway, if this is your first time on my channel, welcome. Please don't forget to stick around, like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into the book I DNF'd most recently, which was two actually, and I DNF'd them on the same day because I had read them like a little bit throughout spooky season and I just could not get into them. The one we're gonna start with is A Ballad of Nightmares by Jack Whitney, I think. Hold on, I just needed to like pull it up to see what I had said, but basically this isn't a DNF where I'm like, I really dislike this book, I didn't enjoy it at all. This is a DNF where I'm like, I could not get into it. I feel like this would have been such a good book, and I know a lot of people who enjoy it, but I personally just could not get into it, so I couldn't read it. I DNF'd it about 14%. I think the main part I couldn't get with was the fantasy element, because I'm not a huge fantasy person. This is my like second fantasy book I tried. I've like dabbled in it, but it was just really confusing to me and I couldn't get in the spirit of it. That being said, I'm sure a lot of people would enjoy this, and I'm definitely not jumping on like the hate train for this book because I feel like it could have been so good. I just couldn't personally get into it, and that was definitely a me thing, not this book. I really want to make this clear, guys. This is not a like I hate this book DNF. This is a like I couldn't personally get into it DNF. And similarly, Ghost by Kat Blackthorne or something was also one of those. This one, I liked it a bit less than I liked the other one, but I just couldn't get into it, and honestly, I don't even remember what it was about. I know it was surrounded around Halloween, and I was like really excited to read it around Halloween, but I could not get into it, and so I had to DNF it. I think I also got about 14% in, and I just like couldn't continue because it wasn't very interesting to me. And then next is Halifax House. This one, I was just bored. The premise sounded fine, but it was like a fleshed out novella in the way that it had all taken place on one night, but it was like a normal length book, and honestly I was bored. I wasn't too interested in any of the characters, and well, it was all right. I just got bored. That's like the literally only thing I can say about this. I didn't like it enough to continue, but I have no like beef or hate towards this book. I just couldn't get with it because I didn't really love the characters and I didn't have anything to stick around for. Then we have Savage Lands by Stacey Marie Brown, and actually I forgot to add this to my September wrap up. Nobody's heard me talk about this book before, but I DNF'd it at about 20% I think, because this is another fantasy book that I just could not get into. I don't think I'll ever give fantasy another shot. Like after this, I'm like, guys, I can't understand it. I personally will probably just stick with romance like forever and always, because this one was just really confusing and I didn't understand it, and I didn't like find the plot interesting or like where it was going, so I just like said bye to it, honestly. I think it was reverse harem, but it's also like 8 books long. And those books are like 500 pages and I didn't want to do that. Next up is Hostile Saint by India R. Adams. And honestly guys, we're going pretty quickly with this. I'm like talking too quick or something. I read this back in August or July, I don't know. And this one, it was a like psychological thriller romance, and it was a dark romance, and it sounded really good. The cover was really pretty, and I was like, this could be my kind of book. But it was just so psychologically confusing that, you know, when you're like reading something and you think you should be picking up on Easter eggs, but you don't have the effort to do so, so then you get really confused and really lost. That's what happened with this book. I was like, I feel like there's something going on underneath here and I should probably remember it, but I can't, and now I don't understand what's happening. And honestly, it was all over the place. I didn't understand it. And one of the characters was suffering from like a lot of trauma and PTSD and was like forgetting the whole plot, and I was like, girl, same, I'm forgetting the whole plot too. So like I just couldn't go through with it. I don't really know what to say about this one. Also, the hero and the heroine, their relationship was so weird. I don't even like saying that, but like it confused the shit out of me. And I'm like, why are you guys together? And they weren't even together. And anyway, it was a bit of a mess, but that could have also been the way that I wasn't understanding what was going on, so don't know. Okay, wait, now we're going back to September with This Love Hurts by Nikita. Whoa, I don't even remember much about this. Oh, it was dark college romance, and the hero I think was like next level controlling psychopath, and to be honest, I don't remember why I DNF'd it. Oh my god, this is not much of a video if I can't remember why I didn't like him. Oh, I didn't like the heroine. My review was, Lord, I can't with these heroines. Yeah, I think she was one of those like really cringy cliche heroines that was also really clingy, and I didn't really like that. I have a very like fine line when it comes to heroines, and actually probably heroines are one of the reasons why I DNF these books. Heroes sometimes, but I feel like I can be a little more lenient with them. I don't know why. Next up is Dollhouse by Kyla Faye. Now I've seen this one doing its thing on Instagram. I just want to say that I found it first. I'm kidding. I found it in like August and I saw it in October. Okay, sorry guys, my doctor called and I had to go answer that. Anyway, we were on, what were we on? We were on Dollhouse by Kyla Faye. Not really too much to say about this one. Again, I think it was throwing me for too much of a like thought process. I had to put a lot of thought into this book, and I think again it was the heroine that also deterred me. It was a reverse harem, and I just didn't want to read a reverse harem at that point. It was kind of crazy in the beginning. Like, I DNF'd it at 17%, and all I remember is that 17% was a wild ride. Also, Mercy by Deborah Anastasia. This was the heroine, pure and simple. She said something about her pussy being a taco, and I said bye. I literally could not, with the way that she was so annoying. And like, guys, that wasn't the first time she had said something like that either. I was like, girl, get a grip. And the hero, I feel like was just very distant, and like I didn't even feel like he was really a character. He like didn't talk at all, and I was like, where's your opinion? So yeah, that was a bit of a struggle. But then next is Lust by Jethy Annis. I really have to give a description when I DNF books because that was like all the way back in June and I don't really remember much, but I do remember that the hero, who was her stepbrother, honestly, he was kindly a bit of a pussy and acted like he was the president. And I actually think there was something to do with the president in this. I feel like he was running for president or something, but I didn't like him at all. That was the one time when I think it was the hero or like writing's fault and not the heroine. Yeah, my review was it's giving high school bully days with a hero who can't back shit up, and I feel like that is very accurate for this book. I didn't like the hero, but also it was too juvenile, I guess. I don't know, they were just acting crazy and I don't like it. Next is Redlined by Calla Riley. I feel like this is one of those books that I would have loved if I read it back in like 2020 or something when I was at the beginning of reading romance. I would have loved this fucking book, especially because it was a like motorcycle crew romance, not a motorcycle club necessarily, but like motorcycle, street racing, drag racing, that kind of shit. And I was like, I could have loved this. But yeah, I DNF'd it at 55% because I didn't like the heroine, shock to who, and the hero was so wishy-washy. The plot in this, I was just like, why? What is going on? And then also I said that it wasn't developed enough. The tropes were too basic. Yeah, there we go. Summed it up pretty well. Like I said though, I think I would have loved that back at the beginning of when I was reading romance, but when my tastes were like that defined, I guess, I didn't love it as much. Then we have Facing Us by Nikki Harris. I really tried to get into this, but the hero was like a complete drunk. And even though he wasn't like rude drunk to her or like anything like that, he was just like really annoying to me. And he was like really whiny in my memory. I don't know how the book was intriguing and boring at the same time, but it was. The characters were really basic, yeah, and I didn't want to read about the hero's drunk ass for any longer than needed. Yeah, so I didn't like that one. Obviously, I DNF'd it. I really wanted to give this series a shot. It's 6 books, and that was book 6, honestly. Girl, did you start with book 6? This is book 1. I don't know what I'm saying. Yeah, after giving it a shot, I will not read the rest of the series. But honestly, I wish I had loved it. It could have been really good. And there were some other books in that series that could have like blown me away, I think. But yeah, don't know, didn't work out. Then there is Slave to the Rhythm by Jane Harvey Barrett. This one, oh my god, it was like a dark human trafficking romance mixed with dance. And I think the heroine was in a wheelchair, which probably made me read for how long I had read that, because like that's very rare. And when you see that, you need to like grab onto that and hold on to that, because it's very rare to find anything other than like picture perfect characters, you know? Like rarely ever read about a character who was like deaf, or maybe they had ADHD, or maybe they were in a wheelchair. Like literally, I've read about it. He was blind. Winter in Devil's Night series. And other than that, representation is at 1 on the scale, honestly. So when I found out that the heroine was in a wheelchair, I was like, oh, I'm gonna hold on for you, girl. I'm gonna do it. But apparently I couldn't hold on for much longer, because it was another one that was just like so confusing and so chaotic, and I didn't really want to read about somebody who was being human trafficked, but they were in a dance company. It just made me feel uncomfortable, honestly. I danced for a large portion of my life, and at the beginning I wanted to go somewhere with it. At the end I was just like, girl, you're not gonna do that. I don't have the discipline for that. Let's just say that. But I always loved dance romances because like they're amazing, but this one, it just didn't hit the spot for me. And then another book that I normally would love is The Sound of Us by C.R. Jane, because it's a rock star romance, but it's reverse harem, and the heroine, oh, so it's typical rock star romance. She meets the heroes, they fall in love in their childhood, everything is amazing, they're all hopelessly in love with each other. Something happens, usually a miscommunication. The next day, they say they're never going to talk to each other again. She is still living in this piss poor town, and they are off doing their rock star shit. She meets them at a concert or somewhere that she didn't know they would be. In this case, she actually did know they would be there. And then they fall back in love with each other. Literally, we've seen this a billion times. But this one, the heroine was in a abusive relationship, and she was like so far deep into that toxic relationship that she like didn't have hope for herself anymore. And honestly, guys, I'm one of those people that like see toxicity, even an ounce of it from a friend, anything, and I am gone. And so it's really hard for me to read about that for like 30% of this 500-page book where she won't leave the guy, and I'm like, you had the ability to, you didn't. And it just made me feel really frustrated, because I was like, I don't want to read about this. Can we go somewhere with actual characters that are supposed to be in there, because we like hadn't heard from them for like 30%. And like I said, this book was thick. So anyway, that was why I did not like that book. But then the last 2 books we're going to talk about is In the Dark by Dana Logan. I swear to God, I've talked about this book before in a DNF video, but I haven't. This is so weird. It feels like deja vu or something. This book is another like psychological thriller dark romance, and I feel like there should be a niche for all those books because there's so many of them, but this one I could not get into because it was so confusing and so crazy, and I just didn't care to make sense of it. That's literally all I can say about this book. But Carnival of Bones by Penn Cassidy is one that I just like couldn't get into. This one isn't a hard DNF, but we all know that I'll never come back to them. Even if I say they weren't a hard DNF, I'll never come back to them, which is unfortunate because this book I did enjoy, but I'm not the kind of person to come back to it after I've said goodbye, because I'll procrastinate it. But this one, it's a menage romance. I think it's MFM, and it could have been super, super good, but I just didn't stick with it. I feel like we ended it off on a good note. We ended it off on a high note. Anyway, those were a lot of books. I was not planning to go through that many books, but I also feel like this went by really quickly. Here we are. Thank you guys so much for watching. Special shout out to the people who have watched my recent DNFs video from like 8 months ago and then watched this one. I really appreciate you guys. And honestly, that video from 8 months ago, I published it when I had like 400, maybe 500 subscribers. That video I think has the most comments I've ever gotten on a video. It was astounding to me. I was like, we really do love shitting on these books that we don't like, don't we? And I say that in like a nice way, or the nicest way that you can, but like, yeah, it was really funny to me how everybody wanted to comment on that video. And you know, guys, feel free to do it here. These books are a lot less popular than the ones that I had talked about then, but you know, if you've read them, let me know what you think of them down in the comments. Let's keep it respectful to the authors though. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I was literally about to say happy spooky season reading. Happy reading, and I'll see you guys in my next video very soon.